Us. I gotta ask a question. So you can say so at Q&A. So person asks me what's the difference between, like, say, fighting, real actual fighting, street fight, sparring, and competition fighting like UFC, MMA, Glory, Bellator, boxing, right? Like the organization. And what's the difference between those three things, right? Like I said, when people ask me a question, there's sometimes I don't get to it right away, but I try to, right? I try to do the best I can. Like, my channel here, I would do prediction videos, breakdowns, and so forth, but it's a multi-purpose channel. Because before I was start doing that, my channel was like on tutorial videos and martial arts, which I still do from time to time. Just more of kind of vlogging vibe where you might see me training here and there, right? But I try to keep it put it now, like more of a motivation thing, right? So try to inspire people, kind of give them certain knowledge on certain things that I learned from my journey in life, right? So try to share that with people then, right? Not here to beat on nobody, not here to try to put anybody down in anywhere or anything like that. I'm just here to inspire and teach and just basically kind of show you what I do in my life, in my journey. I said I might drop little videos here and there of me training and so forth, right? So the difference between those three things there, as far as the fighting is concerned, and sparring, and also full contact fighting as far as MMA, UFC, sport, right? I'm gonna start with the sport thing. When it comes to sport, from my knowledge, right? Like I said, I competed for like a long time, years of competition. Right? I studied martial arts way back in early 80s, from I was like 4 years old, right? While I was training though, it never started kicking in until later on, obviously. Because when you're young like that, sometimes it takes a little while for you to, grasp certain concept, right? It's not everything you were gonna pick up, and be like master at that young age, but you will grasp the concept of it though, because usually when you're small like that, you pick up things fast. But as soon as you get older and older, you start understanding, as far as when it comes to like fighting, you start understanding more distancing between you and your opponent. You start understanding how to position your body in a certain way. Then you start getting more formation in certain techniques, and you start understanding that it's just not all on just punching and kicking now, right? So to create a distance, the counter strike. There's a lot of things. You can see openings now, because when I was younger, I was more on, how can I say no? I was quick with speed, which I still am, but I was more all over the place. You know what I'm saying? So everything would be flying everywhere, and it was still accurate with precision, I must say. But the way I am now is more calculated, right? So I can see the openings, I can see the punches and whatever kicks coming. I can see where you're moving to. It's like, and where I need to move to execute the technique. So it's kind of like a game of chess, basically, right? So it's more calculated kind of striking, or even ground, or name it, or whatever it is, right? Weapons training or whatever, right? So when it comes to the sport, as far as UFC, you have to keep in mind that it's organized, so there are rules involved in there, right? So depending on the sport, like MMA, you can elbow, knee, you can take down. In kickboxing, you just stand up fighting, right? You can kick, knee, you can box, right? But you can't take down, you can't ground and pound, right? So it all depending on the rules that will change the game around, right? Then you have referee, then you got judges, right? And then obviously you can't bring weapons in there, so it's limited, right? It's a game, right? It's a sport. It's a game. It's completely different. I mean, it's still, have values of, you can say, like a street fight, a real life street fight. There is still stuff you can, like simulation of a real fight is in the sport still. But then there's a lot of limitations as far as weapon is concerned. And then, certain things that you're drilling, you're only going to drill it for that sport. So your muscle memory is only going to be used to fighting like that. So say if you're going to do MMA or whatever, in your mind, the guy shoot at you, you're going to sprawl, right? So you keep drilling that same thing over and over again. So it gives you a limitation on what you can do, right? So you might not do certain things because you don't need it in the cage, because it's not useful at the moment, or you just can't do it. You can't jab finger in the eye, even though sometimes guys do get jabbed in the eye, and you see how fast they grab the eye and and they can't see, the vision get blurred, right? Can't kick in the groin, can't bite. There's a lot of things that you can't bring weapons in there. It's just like knives and guns and obviously not. So there's a lot of things that is limited, right? So that's basically the difference. When it comes to the sport, and there's a limitation in a lot of things. And then they have referee to stop the fight if it goes too far, right? Fighting, street fighting, anything goes, everything goes. Street fighting is like life and death. To me, is life and death. That's if somebody come rob you, or you're just on the street, and then you go into your car and a man does, as I said, want to rob you, or you get jumped or whatever. That's life and death. So anything goes, right? Kicking, punching, biting, headbutting, stabbing, shooting, chopping, bottle, rocks, everything is gonna go. There is no limitation on the street. There's no referee. There's no judges. There is no organization. They can't organize that. They do have organized street fights though, but it's kind of similar to like maybe the MMA sport, but just on the street. Kind of like what Kimbo Slice was doing. It's kind of organized in a sense, right? Because when the guy get knocked down and the guy get hurt, they stop it, right? On the street, the guy get knocked down, he gets hurt. Boy, all depends on what the person want to do after that. The person starts stomping on your head. That could be the end of you. Could be death. That's why I say real life street fight is life and death, right? That's simple. Because just remember, street fight, everything goes. That's it. Life and death. You're fighting for your life, basically. Or if you do get into a street fight, it's either you're gonna confront it or you're gonna run. It just depends on who you're facing, how much you're facing, and if there's weapons involved. You always want to be on your feet though. You don't want to be on the ground. Like I said, the MMA sport, it sometimes will limit you and give you bad habits in certain things, like falling to the ground a lot. In the street, you don't want to fall to the ground like that. You avoid the ground. You want to have your 2 foot, because that's how you can move the quickest. If you're on your knees and your hands, I mean, you can crawl, but I don't know how fast you can crawl, But when you're standing up on your foot, you can move a lot quicker, in my opinion. I mean, from what I've known from my experience, right? So you never want to go to the ground on the street like that, right? So you want to avoid it. The only way you're on the ground, if you just end up there, it happens, because you can't predict that. And then you're always trying to find a way to stand back up as quick as you can, right? Sparring. The difference between sparring now and all the other things. Sparring is something that, for me, in my opinion, I mean, from what I've learned from all my years of training, it can set you up for a street fight. It will set you up for a combat sport, basically. Sparring is something that you can control the pace of it, and you usually spar with your trainers, with your friends, your trainers, whoever you're practicing with, your gym. You train with those guys, you spar with those guys, and they're supposed to drill you with techniques to get you ready for a fight or ready for a street, for, if you know, just for self-defense, right? So that's what sparring is. You can control the pace of it. It depends on how experienced you are and who you're sparring with. You can say, hey, let's just go, maybe like 40%, right? But it's control sparring. So basically, when you're punching or you're kicking, you kind of landing the kicks them, but you're not following through all the way to really hurt the person. And you wear padding, right? You wear gloves and shin pads and stuff like that, so you don't injure the person bad, right? Because the person is going to have to maybe go fight in a sport, or the person maybe have to go to work the next day and they don't want to get beat up like that, right? It's not fun, right? It's not fun for the person who's getting beat up, who has to go to work. So that is why, when you're sparring, it's good to sometimes pick the person that's more experienced, right? You try to train with like the higher dans, right? Because usually the higher dan them will usually, when they deliver the technique, then they can see the openings, or they should be able to can see the opening in them. I mean, it all depends on the person now still. And if the kick is going to the head and they see that they can knock you out with the kick, they won't deliver it at that force, right? Because they know they can just knock you down and hurt you. So they will control it. When you're sparring an amateur, a guy who's just learning, it's dangerous, because then he's just gonna throw everything wild because he's just learning. But then because he's throwing everything wild, he's kind of unorthodox, right? So everything is going everywhere. So there is no I should say scripted. Like how sometimes when you're setting up and you use your jab, you go jab, then you go straight right, then you go body kick, or you go body kick 1, 2, you go uppercut, or you go elbow, you go knee, or you reverse kick. There's drills that you do with an amateur person who doesn't really know much. Those numbers, or those drills, those techniques is not going to be in order like that, because he's just learning. So he's going to throw like reckless punches. He might throw a kick that's not known to be thrown, because it's just, he might not have balance, he might not have form, but it's still dangerous though, because he doesn't know what he's doing. But the thing about that now, when he's doing that, he can also injure himself. So a lot of times when you have new guys that are learning, they throw so much wild thing that what I've seen, sometimes they hurt themselves. They can blow out they blow out their own knees, they break their shin, they fracture the hand, break the finger, because a lot of times they feel like they need to go hard and swing hard and just kick hard, just just everything is just aggression, but they don't know how to pace themselves on certain things, as like say a professional person would be able to, right? So that's why I say it's good to train obviously with a professional person, a higher than than to go and spar with somebody who don't really know nothing, because that's when you get hurt. And basically it's like blind leading the blind, and both of you just gonna be just busting up each other, and you're not gonna learn nothing. But you train with somebody, or you spar with somebody that knows what he's doing, he can gauge the fight to where he wants the fight to go, as far as the distance and the range, right? So he knows he can knock you out, he knows he can do these things to you. But because you're sparring and you agree on a certain level of sparring, the person should be at that level, or is at that level, should understand that, okay, there's a discipline thing involved in this. I'm not here to injure this guy. I'm not here to hurt the person. I'm here for him to learn and to develop, right? Or I'm preparing him to go into an actual fight, right? Be in the sport. So it's not about me just beating him up and just, show him that I can kick his ass or whatever in sparring. It doesn't prove nothing, right? You want to injure your sparring partners, right? Or your sparring friends, or whoever you're sparring. So that's the difference. Sparring is all on, you agree on the level that you want to go at. And you tell the person, if he's an amateur person, you tell him, you can do whatever you want to do. You can punch, you can kick, or whatever you want, and then whatever you throw at me, I'm just gonna counter you, or I'm gonna move in on you and throw shots, but I'm gonna throw it at a rate where you can see it, or I'm gonna throw it at a rate where it's not gonna injure you. But again, at times, like I said, the amateur person will sometimes hurt their own self. Or sometimes the professional person might throw a kick, and then the amateur person, doesn't really know how to block properly. And then they block and they hurt them hand, or they hurt their leg. They check the kick or whatever, or they block incorrectly and hurt their elbow. Or, it happens, right? So anything can happen even when you're sparring, even though it's control, right? Next thing I want to say here. Yeah, and that goes for also the ground, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or rolling, or whatever you're doing, or wrestling. It's the same thing. It's control sparring. It's not meant to, I'm going to kick this guy's ass or hurt this person. That's not the purpose of it. That's why it's sparring. Fighting and sparring is two different things. Sparring and fighting is two different things. Street fighting and sparring is two different things. Right? It's two different things. Sparring is more, as I say, a teaching kind of thing. I'm teaching you, I'm preparing you to enter into a sport, or we're sparring to learn new techniques and to develop, like drilling, right? Like a simulation, we're drilling the techniques together, but it's control to where we don't injure each other, right? That's the purpose of the sparring, right? So you got light, medium, heavy. It all depends on the experience of the person. Obviously, two experienced guys is going to go a lot harder with each other, right? Experienced guy against a novice, like a guy that don't really know nothing, amateur guy. Obviously, the experienced guy is not just going to just beat up the just beat up the amateur dude. The novice guy is going to go beat him up like that. It doesn't. It's not. There's nothing to gain from that. The novice guy ain't gonna learn nothing, because he's just taking an ass whooping. He's just gonna learn how to take an ass whooping. But if you let him throw techniques at you, and you move around with him, make him touch you a little bit here and there, and then you deliver back to him, he will end up learning more from that than you just beating him up. So it just all levels to the game, man. And that goes for everything. There's levels to everything, Everything, there's levels, like experience to everything. There's discipline in everything you do. There's experience in everything. It's like when I started doing martial arts, like I said, all the movement, all the footwork, all the punching, the kicking, right? The accuracy, the balance, the formation, the techniques, all that stuff took a while for me to actually understand that. Even though I had it at a young age, it's different now when you actually sparring or fighting somebody to deliver those techniques on them, right? Because remember, it's not because you can kick and punch, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it in a real life situation. That's why sparring is important. That's why competition is important. Because through competition and sparring, you will gain the knowledge, you will gain the understanding of the person in front of you, of them moving forward, back, and laterally, and you will see the punches. Even though you might get hit and get knocked down, or you lose a couple fights, but you understand and you learn from that, and eventually over a while, you will know how to move your body back and forward and laterally, and you will know distance and your range, and how to cover it, and how to move out the way of the shots, how to slip, how to counter. If you are a counter fighter, your offense, defense, you will start knowing all those things after a lot of sparring and a lot of competition. And that's the only way you're going to understand that. So those are the difference, in between like sport, fighting, UFC, Bellator, Glory, kickboxing, street fight, and sparring, right? To me, in my opinion, because I said, I've been doing this for a long time and I've done all three. And from my journey, that's how I see it. In my mind, from me doing it. That is what I learned. And that's what I'm expressing to you right now, right? For all my life, I was a very small kid for a long time. So even when I was born, I was little. I was the smallest one, not everybody else. Everybody seemed to be bigger than me as far as body weight, right? It didn't about me when I was growing up. I had a little stutter, like a stammer, right? So I would skip on my words a lot. So because of that, I never really expressed myself a lot verbally, and then that made me very shy, right? So I would always be the kid in the back of the classroom, never want to sit in the front, never talk much. And what happened then, I would end up getting bullied a lot. So a lot of times I would get bullied. And then through the bullying, I believe I developed anger, right? So I had a lot of anger inside of me, but I didn't know how to express the anger. So then, I would just, once I can't take it anymore, I'll just blow up. But then my blowing up into anger was just like, maybe like picking up a chair, pick up a rock, or, pencil, or, whatever I could find, and then just go off, because, or bite or whatever, because that's how the way I would express myself, because I never really knew how to fight like that. I didn't know nothing about distancing and range and how to control my anger, right? And through martial arts, it teach me how to take the anger, channel it into energy. And that's why it kind of calm me and control the anger. But then it take everything that I learned through the martial arts, and I take it and make it into energy. And that goes for anything. That goes for dancing, singing, yoga. Martial arts to me is everything. Acting, everything. You're walking, even my talking, because I don't stutter as much anymore, because I said through martial arts, it opened doors to everything else, right? It's like it teaches you confidence, self-confidence, discipline, right? It would take you and structure you into something that you never thought that you could have done or be, right? And then it make you take whatever you were struggling with, and you take that, and then you just take it inside, and then you just take it and turn it into energy, right? And then you just let it flow. After that, it just all comes out. And that's why I love martial arts. Martial arts is the way of life for me. Because through martial arts, it opened doors for me for different things. And it gave me the confidence that I never really had when I was small. I get bullied a lot. And I would just go off and like rocks throwing and biting and all these things. As I said, in street fighting, that's how usually it is. You're not gonna square off and just like okay, you punch me, I kick you. Sometimes knives and rocks are thrown. So as life goes on, I got older. I got better with my talking. Then I still was a quiet kid. Hitting middle school, high school. The bullying still go on still. But then through the martial arts, through the training now, I was able to diffuse the situation on certain bullying. I would turn it into, like I would say, the guy, some people want to push you and things like shove you and things like that. And I'd be like, hey, hey, you want to spar? And the guy would be like, spar? Like, spar? Like, what are you talking about, sparring? Like, you can throw punches at me or whatever, and then we can go back and forth, and you can see what you got. Since you're already, you're giving me a hard time every day. You look like you're pushing me around every day. You have something to say, or you have something that you want to do. And, I never really retaliate in that manner because I don't really want to get into a fight with you like that. Because that's the thing about martial arts. You always try to avoid fighting, right? But I use sparring as we can come here and you can exchange the techniques, and then we will see what you know. And then from there you can go on. So then a lot of times people, yeah, sure, let's spar, and then I will spar, and then and then it is what it is after that. Like sometimes it was just too quick for the guy. A guy couldn't keep up. I would there's techniques that I thought that I could have hit him, but I didn't hit him with it because, as I said, sparring. You're not trying to injure the person in that kind of manner. Sometimes I knock the guy down, but it's not knocking down to like knock him out cold, you know. And then from there on, that is how I would deal with things, just if anybody want to like test you in a certain way, okay, people gonna always want to test you, and that's the thing. They're gonna always try to see how good you are, or always try to, in a sense, I wouldn't, I wouldn't say want to troll you, but they are trying to push a button to get a reaction out of you. Because a lot of times you have to be careful in certain things, because a lot of people will do things on purpose for you to go off and get angry, because that fuels them. They like to see that. But then in this situation here, for me, once I start getting older and I start understanding movement and distancing, I know I could control the guy in a certain manner. If you throw a punch here and there, I can move out the way and I can sidestep him and whatever. It became like a game. It was like easy for me, right? So I just bring up sparring, and a lot of times it was just fine. It's like, yeah, sure, So I mean, I had a couple fights here and there, but it was just more like rocks and those things like that, like weapons and things like that. But I mean, that's basically that's the real difference between I say like sparring, like street fighting, and combat sport. It's all depending on the rules involved. The only one that don't have no rules, I would say, is a street fight. There's no rules in that one. The sparring, they have limitation in sparring, but it all depends on the person, because you can always change it up, or you can just go all the way out in sparring. But it is still a slight control in there, maybe 85%, 90. You don't try to knock out your opponent cold, because then that guy has to fight. And you don't want to knock him out like that, because then getting knocked out is not good. Getting hit to the head like that ain't good. If he gets knocked out in practice, it's not good when he goes in the fight. Because a slight punch or kick can knock him out again. And that's why when you're sparring, you always protect yourself as much as you can. Headgear, mouthpiece, shin pad, and then you don't want to injure your legs either, your shin. You don't want to bump shins too much without shin pad on, because if you're going to fight, you're going there with shin splint and all these things. Is not good. You don't want to crack a rib, break a toe, break fingers. So that's why you usually protect yourself like that. So that's the difference in all those three things. And yeah, man, that's about it. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions in the comments, just leave it down below. And like I said, this is from my experience. Other people might have their own opinions, but it's all cool. Everybody gonna see things differently. Probably different journey. A different lifestyle too. It might play out differently in what their thinking is on what combat sport and fighting and sparring means to them. So that's it, guys. So you guys can keep on kicking, man.